Hey everyone, and welcome to the D-Tools What's the Buzz podcast. I'm Jason Knott, Data Solutions Architect and Evangelist at D-Tools, and with me is my co-host and partner in crime, Tim Bagonis, the Chief Marketing Officer at D-Tools. Hey Tim.
Hey Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing great. This is going to be a super exciting podcast because there is a lot of buzz going on right now. And a lot of the buzz has to do with the upcoming Infocom 2024 show in Las Vegas, taking place June the 12th through the 14th. Actually, the education starts before that, June 8th at Las Vegas Convention Center. They're going to have all sorts of special events, including something that sounds really cool, which is a tour of that new Sphere facility, the concert facility that looks out of this world. I have not had a chance to, I've seen it from the outside, but I haven't been inside of it yet. And of course, D-Tools will be at the show. We're going to be there in booth C8257, and we want to have everybody coming by to see the latest version of System Integrator V21. And also, we're going to be showcasing D-Tools Cloud at Infocom for the first time. So please make sure you come by and see us. So before we jump into it, I just want to remind everybody, please go ahead and subscribe on Apple or Spotify to the podcast, and go ahead and like us and subscribe to the D-Tools YouTube channel. So, and there's probably nobody better to discuss what's happening at Infocom than my friend and former colleague, Dan Farisi, Group Editor of Commercial Integrator and Security Sales and Integration. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Jason. Good to see you. Thank you so much for having me. Tim, always great to see you as well.
Great to see you too. And you know, Dan, thanks for jumping into this with us. It's our second podcast, and one of the things that we wanted to do is to not just talk business, but really, this is our chance to really connect with our industry friends. Yes, we're going to see each other in a couple of weeks at Infocom, but it's always good to catch up. And we want to share something personal as we do this as well. So before we jump into the topic at hand, I thought it'd be great for us to kind of talk about your journey and how you got into this business and what kind of led you to your current role of editor-in-chief of Commercial Integrator, and what was your passion to get into this?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question. What I would say is that I came into the industry about 20 years ago. I started as assistant editor of a publication called Sound and Communications. I came into the industry having no AV background whatsoever. I really knew very, very little about it. I was never in the AV club or installing VCRs or anything like that. I had no background. But my predecessor, or I guess what I would say is my mentor, David Silverman, the person who hired me, and I eventually succeeded him as editor of Sound and Communications, he took kind of a flyer on me. He saw that I was a freshly trained journalist. I had an aptitude for editing and writing and interviewing. And he said, we can teach you the technology. We can't teach you how to be a journalist. So he took a leap of faith on me. And fortunately, I think it worked out pretty well. As I say, I got to succeed him as editor of Sound and Communications back in 2017. And then when Sound and Communications discontinued amid the pandemic, I was very, very fortunate to get a call from Jason Knott, and he brought me on to Emerald, brought me on to Commercial Integrator. That's been my professional home ever since, and I feel absolutely at home in this industry. I've made so many wonderful friends. I've learned so much. When I think back about my time as a cub reporter to now, it's just been an incredible and really rewarding journey.
No, that's awesome. And, it's really interesting. You're a journalist. Jason, of course, obviously a journalist. And I got into this industry. I'm a media guy. I wasn't necessarily a journalist, but I started in, broadcast TV, got my degree in TV, worked in television, then myself started a magazine in the 90s for multimedia developers, as we talked about. But I was a media guy. And I remember Jason was one of the first people I met in the industry when I came in about 18 years ago now. And it was Jason Knott and Carol Campbell were the first people I really met in the industry. And I didn't know anything about the industry other than I was kind of a gear guy, right? Mm-hmm. I wasn't a Navy guy. I was a gear guy. But I was a media guy, so I could talk to Jason, right? Understand the business of trade publications. I could talk to Carol Campbell. She was on the business side of that. And so, kind of just grew out of there. And I would echo your thoughts that this industry is has been, very welcoming. Like I knew nobody when I got here, but I would say within the first year and a half, I met probably almost, everybody at all our partner companies, all the manufacturers, started to get to know the dealers over the years. And it's really gratifying to be in an industry where, so many of our peers, we actually do consider friends.
Yeah, you said it beautifully, Tim. It's an incredibly welcoming industry. When I go to these shows like Infocom or Commercial Integrator Expo or ISC, you genuinely feel like you're at home away from home. You feel like you're with your second family. It's not just business. It's not just like, oh, sign the contract or make the deal or something. It really is a collection of friends, people taking selfies, and they're just so happy. We're so happy to see each other. I think it's pretty special.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I hope all three of our media backgrounds don't mean that everybody else who doesn't have that is looking at us as either likable, that's what I hope, or, boy, those three guys are really kind of weird. I don't know which one it is. It might be somewhere in the middle.
Medium nerds. Hey, I did a magazine. Yeah, no.
All right, Dan, let's jump right into it. Before we talk specifically about Infocom, give us a quick state of the market, of the commercial AV market. Where do things stand? What are you hearing? What's the buzz out there from the integration community heading into the show?
I'd say it's really a time of opportunities and challenges in equal measure. I think the supply chain issues have ameliorated significantly. Rate of inflation has certainly gone down substantially. But at the same time, interest rates are very high relative to recent history, at least. It's also been increasingly challenging for integrators to recruit, to hire, to retain the talent they need. And that's causing a pinch sometimes in some of their projects. And I think there's also just continual worry about recession or economic decline. It's kind of interesting insofar as, the stock market is at record highs or close to record highs. Unemployment's very, very low. But still, there seems to be this persistent anxiety, and I think that sometimes inhibits spending that integrators really depend on. So what I would say is it's a great time to be an integration business because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of opportunity, and people recognize the value of what we do. But it's also a challenging time to be an integration business. So you have to be well equipped with strategies and techniques to rise above the pack in order to overcome those challenges and take advantage of all the great opportunities.
Has the corporate office market kind of bounced back from the pandemic, or are you seeing more integrators driving into light commercial, bars, restaurants, hospitality, those sorts of areas, or is there really no differentiation you're seeing in those verticals at this point?
I think when it comes to offices, I would say, and I don't have numbers in front of me, but I'd say a lot of them are still at 50% capacity or less. Some companies are jettisoning offices altogether and going fully remote. I don't think we're ever going to get back to full occupancy. And I mean, that's even kind of a misnomer. Before the pandemic, a lot of offices were still at like 70% occupancy. So it's almost illusory to think we're going to get back to something like 100%. What I would say is that hospitality, immersive, retail, experiential, those seem to be the big areas right now. That's not to say that you're not going to see continued success with bread and butter verticals like corporate and education. But in terms of outsized growth, above average growth, what I seem to be hearing is people are looking for more of those dazzling applications, experiential retail, large venue, interactive museums, things that will kind of lure you out of your home. I think our standards have collectively been raised. And if we're going to leave our home to do something and not have Amazon deliver it or just watch it on our big screen TV, we need to be drawn out of our home. And the same goes for the workplace, by the way. If you want me to go to a workplace, not me, but a person, it better be worth going to. I better not just be in an office answering emails. I think people want that experiential engagement, and that goes from work to school to leisure.
Very well said. Very well said. So let's talk a little bit before we get into the technology and the exhibits on the show floor. Let's talk a little bit about the education. I know you're actually moderating a session at the show at Infocom, and we're like-minded in that D-Tools is all about helping integrators be better businesses. And I know that obviously is the mantra of Commercial Integrator also, as well as Security Sales and Integration. What are some of the operational or challenging sessions that you might see that integrators might want to attend at that show? Or is there any sort of theme to what the sessions are that you think could be attractive for integrators to get to?
I appreciate you bringing that up, Jason, because I think when people think of a show like Infocom, they immediately think of the exhibits, which are, of course, dazzling, as are the social events. But the education really is so critical. And if you are going to try to be a successful integration business owner, in the challenging environment we live in, you need to level up your skill set and your knowledge. That's why, and thank you for mentioning it, we're going to be doing that session, Emerging Integrator Opportunities in the Physical Security Space. It's going to be an unvarnished, unbiased look at the pluses, the minuses of AV specialists trying to branch out into physical and electronic security. I couldn't be more pleased with the panel. Donna Payne from Texadia Systems, Lionel Felix from Felix Media Solutions, Matt Thorne from Electronic Contracting Company, Travis Detheridge from Lynx Multimedia, people who really know their way around both AV and security. As far as other sessions or other kind of learning opportunities, I'd point to Kristen Bidwell's show floor tour that's going to be focused on sustainability. I'm hearing more and more of the leading vendors in the channel, integrators, talking about being earth-friendly, being sustainable, kind of being central to their decision-making. So I'll be interested to see what Kristen is going to be showcasing on that sustainability tour. The other thing that got me, we all talk about DEI a lot these days, inclusivity, belonging, things like that. Rob Voorhees from Exertus Alamo is going to be doing a session on autism in AV, and that's going to be kind of underscoring the idea of inclusivity and belonging from a neurodivergence point of view, making sure that you have a nurturing environment so these people who can contribute so much, members of your teams, members of your community, are able to succeed to the best of their abilities. So those are some of the things that I think people should consider checking out.
Well, those sound really cool. That one is really neat. That autism one, that sounds really fascinating. All right, let's turn our attention to the show floor for a second. When you look at the exhibits out there, what are some of the hot technologies, either from the existing technology or burgeoning new technologies, that you think integrators should be looking for at Infocom?
What I'd say is that, and I'm not saying this just because I'm on a podcast with two D-Tools executives, but I think business process automation software is going to be getting a lot of attention. I mean, it aligns exactly with what you said. D-Tools message, NSCA's message, CI's message. Integrators need to run their businesses better. And I think some of that process automation and software that can help you do it is key to running a business that's more efficient and more successful. The other thing I'd point to is digital signage, but not just digital signage in the sense of like passive menu boards or airport displays, stuff we've been seeing for 15 years. I'm talking more about like experiential signage. When I think about like experiential retail, where something is really going to dazzle you, you're not going to shop on Amazon or something like that. You're going to go to that store because it's an experience to walk in that store. I think experiential signage is something I'm going to be on the lookout for when I'm walking Infocom. I'm also interested in, again, going with that experiential vibe, spatial sound, immersive audio, the kind of stuff that Meyer Sound and L Acoustics and D&B Audio Technique are so good at. I think enveloping soundscapes can make museums, entertainment spaces, large venues, stadiums and arenas more impactful and more likely to attract people, again, out of the comfort and luxury of their homes. So I'm going to be looking for that. I'm going to be looking for experiential signage, spatial sound, immersive audio, and business process automation software that helps integrators run their businesses better, more successfully, and more profitably.
That interesting. So from the experiential point of view, Dan, are there new special skills that integrators are going to need to be able to really fully take advantage of the capabilities of these new platforms? Is it more programming? Is it, what skills are the integrators going to need to really, make the most of these new capabilities?
I think it's what we all are hearing about these days is software. I think integrators have know hardware very, very well, but you do have to be familiar with software programming. If you're trying to create an immersive soundscape, you need to know not only where to place the speaker, but how to program it so that if you see a ball bouncing or something, you hear it go left, right. Think about like a movie theater when the Dolby commercial comes on and you hear the wave crashing and it goes from your left to your right. And like that kind of thing is not easy to pull off. It's not easy to pull off well and convincingly to make people feel like they're really being immersed in an environment. So I think people are going to have to upskill themselves on software, on programming, on all of those non-hardware based languages, in addition to, of course, knowing the rules of hardware placement to make sure that you're getting it exactly right. Because a half convincing illusion is not worth doing. You need to create a genuine sense of immersion.
Very cool. I want to talk a little bit about this convergence that I know is near and dear to you that's happening between the commercial AV markets and the security markets. I did a quick search of the Infocom exhibit floor. Actually, I just searched the keyword security, and 45 exhibitors and 15 educational sessions popped up under that term. Do you expect to see more of this convergence, and do you expect to see some of that convergence taking place at Infocom this year?
I think there's no doubt that it's going to continue to take place. I don't know if this year is going to be the pivotal year in terms of it gaining critical mass, but already some of the superstars of the show floor, Atlas ID, Axis Communications, Barco, RGB Spectrum, ViewWall, even distributors like Residio, ADI, and TD Synex have real strength in both categories. So I think it's only inevitable that we're going to continue to see these worlds come together. And I think Infocom and future shows, ISE, CIX, will continue to show that. So that's really one of the reasons I'm going to be doing that Thursday morning panel. I want integrators themselves to understand the synergies, because I think the suppliers they're working with already really do. I want them to understand the challenges as well, though. For example, think about the security space. It presents codes, it presents regulations, it presents licensing requirements, things that are different from what AV pros are familiar with. So I want to make sure integrators, as they begin to try to leverage these synergies, understand what they're getting into. I also want integrators to understand that if they're going to be going into this world, it may or may not make sense to immediately go into access control, immediately go into video surveillance, alarms. There may be other opportunities like gunshot detection or things like that may be more niche-y, but that may be easier entry points for AV pros who want to break into the security channel.
Yeah, a lot of technology, a lot of advanced technology that does come out of the security industry that actually bleeds into the AV and control space that I think people are not aware of. Some of the first developments of AI that I saw were in surveillance camera applications. So I think we're going to see AI really kind of push the needle or move the needle in security and move its way more into the AV control area. So good points there, Dan. All right, so we're all headed to Vegas, which we've been to a million times. But what gets you most excited about heading to the show this year? What's really got you? You just can't wait to get to Vegas and Infocom about this year, Dan?
I'd say for me, connecting with the AV Tweeps community is really going to be the highlight of my show. As I said before, it really does feel like a family reunion every time I go to Infocom or Commercial Integrator Expo, or ISE for that matter. It's one of those things where when I go there, I feel like I'm really among family. I feel like I'm among friends. The hugs, the AV selfies, it makes the show worthwhile for me above and beyond the education and the exhibits and the networking. That's the thing I'm most looking forward to. I often like to say in the past, I used to be kind of a Cronkitean editor. That is totally objective, totally down the middle. Didn't want to be too close to anyone because I figured it would like kind of in some way inhibit my objectivity in some kind of a sense. I've really moved away from that now. Now it's all about engaging with the community, and I realize I'm a better editor and a better member of the industry community. I learn more, I have more connections, because I don't hold myself at some artificial professional distance. So that's what I'm looking forward to, connecting with the people and being part of the community that I love so much.
That's awesome. And that, yeah, to me, that's the best thing as well is, we get to see our partners, we get to see our customers, we get to make new friends, we get to show off what we do. And, it's always that first time you get to Vegas and you fly in, you see all the lights, you get on the strip, it's fun to do a show in Vegas. And I'm definitely looking forward to checking out the Sphere. I think if you're in AV, that's the ultimate experience, right? That's going to be the experience. And I know the Dead & Company are doing their residency there. And I've got some friends that are going to that the weekend before. So that'll be exciting. How about you, Jason? What are you most looking forward to?
The peer-to-peer interaction. You guys hit the nail on the head there. And, that's the whole point of these podcasts is getting together with our friends and to Dan's point, the nuances that we learn from speaking with integrators about what's happening, what's going on in the market, and with vendors, that's where we really learn not just how to advance D-Tool's software, which is, that's what our purpose is, to help them run their businesses. If we don't know exactly what the challenges are that they're facing, then we can't anticipate what those needs are going to be. But also from Dan's standpoint, knowing what's going to be important for him to write on and report about from the show. So that peer-to-peer, the only thing that I put a caveat in is that nobody wants to take an AV selfie with me. They don't want to ruin their camera. So those are pretty much off limits. As they're taking all those AV selfies with you two guys, they just kind of walk by me and say, "Oh yeah, there's Jason."
No.
When I see you at the booth, I will make sure to take an AV selfie with you, Jason.
Blow it up really big on a billboard.
Painful. All right, so Dan, you mentioned the booth. Obviously I mentioned that D-Tools is going to have a booth. But where are you going to be at the show? Where can people find you, and where can they get a hold of you after the show?
So I will be at pretty much every event. We do not have a booth home on the show floor, and I won't necessarily be in the press room a whole lot just because my schedule is so crowded. But all the evening events, all the networking events, all the parties, and of course, I'll be running to and fro on the show floor. The other place you can find me, of course, other than the education session, is at the HD-Based T Alliance booth. I'll be there in the morning on Wednesday, on Thursday, and on Friday. We'll be doing thought leader interviews, talking about topical issues like corporate AV, educational AV, sustainability, all these kinds of digital signage, all these areas that are really topical and that are trending in the industry right now. We're going to bring together, along with the HD-Based T Alliance, some of the brightest minds, some of the smartest thinkers, and just kind of talk through the issues of the day and figure out exactly where things are. And I'm excited about doing that. We've done this for multiple years now, multiple shows with the HD-Based T Alliance. So if you want to track me down, find me there Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, or Friday morning.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be coming up before we know it. A short week. Woo. So.
And Dan is hard to miss because he's very tall. So it doesn't come across in video interviews, but he's very tall, so you can't miss him. So again, Dan Farisi, thank you so much for joining us on the D-Tools What's the Buzz podcast. And I want to remind everybody to hit the subscribe button in Spotify and Apple, or to follow us on the D-Tools YouTube channel. And thanks for joining us. We'll have a great show.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Thank you.